Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode we're going to talk about the cinema camera that is hot in everybody's mind is Panasonic S1H. So let's dive right into it. Now this is first time a company is solely focusing a DSLR kind of body, a mirrorless kind of body as a video camera. Basically it's a same form factor as any old camera that you had, and it's 100% focused on video. So it is a full frame 35mm mirrorless system, which is $4,000, which is, you may find it expensive, but it is not that expensive when you are talking about video cameras. Like from a video cameras point of view, it's like bare minimum 25% cheaper compared to other heavier options. It's like free. So it is expensive if you are looking from Sony A7 Mark III, but even A7 R3 R Mark IV version, it is more or less the same price. So you have to understand the price is not too high. And in terms of lens mount, like what options do you have is L mount alliance lenses. Basically Leica already had a lens mount, so three companies came together, Leica, Panasonic and Sigma. They're all making collaborative effort to create this ecosystem. Now again, do you trust this ecosystem? That's up to you, because as of now there is not enough lens option. You have a very long list of lens for Leica, but they are stupidly expensive. And in terms of Panasonic only has few lenses options. So it's up to you. Do you trust this system? Because it could happen, let's say this camera starts to catch on and things starts to actually become popular, and then suddenly you will have hundreds of people making hundreds of lenses for this company, this lens mount. As of now it is uncertain, so you have to be thoroughly aware of that. So we have a very simple axiom here. Basically, do one thing and do it well. So Panasonic took a very capable S1 camera, and they are like, okay, let's add video function to it, and that's their sole function. So the biggest thing you will notice that it is the first mirrorless camera, like quote unquote mirrorless, because our video cameras are technically mirrorless anyway, is like which has a fan inbuilt. Now you have to understand this, like in terms of when you're talking about sensor and all that, sensors do heat up a little bit if you are reading it, but they do not they are not the source of heat. Like they will heat up, but not as a heater. But your processor that is doing all the computation, that is a heating element. Basically all your battery power is going there, and it's being consumed by it. So it does heat up, and because everything is so tightly packed, it will heat up the sensor, which will reduce your signal to noise ratio. And like it's a cascade system, so you will have overheating. So to make sure that things does not overheat, video cameras like Red Epic, Alexa Mary and all those puppy, they generally have big fans. Like they have heat sinks that are more or less the same size as computer processor heat sink. So this is the first time that kind of like a super high-end feature that is generally found on like $20,000 cameras and all that has been put into $4,000 camera. So this is the first biggest change you will say, because in terms of size and all that, it's more or less exactly the same as S1. It's just a bit thicker, 100 gram heavier, so it's not even that heavy. So that gives us a true advantage, where even though you can say, hey, Sony also has unlimited recording, but you have to understand Sony has unlimited recording in a cropped sensor camera. So far I am not clear did any full frame does that. So that translates to, like, even in APS-C, if you keep recording over time, it will heat up. So let's say you have directly USB powering it, over the around 2 to 3 hours you will get that heat up alert. Here you won't, is the fan will ramp up. So that's a very significant advantage. So let's say you are doing live streaming where you are using this camera, and it has been going on for 2 to 3 hours. Many live streams do go that long. In those scenarios, this puppy is like, I got this, no problem, I got this. So that's a very significant advantage. In terms of IO, basically input and output, they have a dedicated time sync input, which is really important and useful for any place where you have multiple devices to sync up, like audio recording station, basically portable recorders, multiple cameras. It is absolute, it is a must to have. They taken care of that. It has normal mic input if you are using something basic, it got that. You have headphone out if you are doing monitoring, it's got that. It has USB power delivery specification, so USB-C power delivery. So if you have an Apple charger or a very powerful phone charger, because power delivery specification is built for 100 watt, your mobile generally does not require 100 watt. So you may find your mobile charger can charge it up if it's not running, but if you want to charge it while it's running, you have to have something bit more beefier. They do provide the system in box, so either you can shut it down and charge it. If you have a power bank that is meant for high power output, power delivery output, it can handle that. So you can charge it while running it, and has full size HDMI output. Now that is very critical. If you have full size HDMI, the port does not break that quickly. Generally the cable break. Now in case of mini, the cable generally people break it like in a few months, so it's quite frustrating. So they have taken care of that. It has dual UHS2. This is one decision that I'm not happy with, because I will explain it why I'm not that happy with it. But it does have dual UHS2 system, same as Sony basically A7 Mark IV, A7R Mark IV, same as that. And it does allow multiple recording options, which are quite amazing. This is same options they had in their handycam lineup, where you can do marathon recording. Basically you can put two blank cards. The moment one fills up, the second card will be used. You can take it out, live swap it, and put a blank card in, and then it will keep recording it. So you can continuously record as long as you want. So that is quite amazing for a quote unquote cheap camera. And it has a top LCD, which has a thorough, like it is a big LCD. It's not a clock LCD like Casio and all that. So it does allow you lot of information. And it has tally light, which is very important for video production. So basically it will show whether it's recording or not. Because let's say for some scenario, you had a scenario where a person is in the front, and there is a it's a room scenario, you don't have the flip out screen for any reason. Let's say it's like you have a cage mounted or things of that nature. It has a tally light. So if recording stops for any reason, let's say card runs out, battery is low, or anything like that, the light will go blink. So you will know like, okay, it is not working. So you don't have to rely on the screen itself. And it has tally light both back and front. So it's quite a minute thing, but it is like priceless for basically cinema industry. And big buttons. Again, that is one good thing about Panasonic. Panasonic does know how to make a ergonomic camera. And they have finally bypassed the patent of Canon, because Canon does have a patent on a flip out screen on full frame. They do not possess the patent on flip out itself. You can do it however you want. So Fuji did the APS-C flip out. That's why they have, Fuji has like this. That is why Sony cannot do like this. Sony has to do like this. Otherwise they will directly conflict with the patent of Fuji. Now what Panasonic did is very simple. They are like, okay, let's put a double hinge system. So they have hinge number 1, hinge number 2. That's why they bypass it. So as of now, other than Canon, this is the only camera available in market that has the luxury of flip out screen, which is quite priceless for vloggers and all that, and small time YouTubers or even corporate shooters. So like if you don't have too much luxury of extra screens and all that, the ability to frame yourself while looking in the camera, it's quite amazing. So you can see, and it has IBUS. Now IBUS, think of this, there are only 3 companies that can do IBUS properly. First is basically Panasonic, best of the best. Second is Nikon. Nikon is good because it has like a very large travel room. Sony is third, but again you have to understand there is no other competitor. So if Canon started to develop this technology properly, they also may end up in a better scenario, because Sony does not have enough travel room, and on top of that their refresh rate is not high enough. So IBUS, in terms of anybody who's using this, they're like, this is amazing. And given the fact that L-mount Alliance does support image stabilization in the lens itself, if you have a lens that has image stabilization, both of them will work together. So it's mind-bogglingly awesome. So you may not even have to worry about like jerry rigging a gimbal system or a glide cam. So that's a quite amazing thing. So that's the whole point, and it has tons of options that you may not even think of. It takes years of it. They had one goal and they focused thoroughly on it. The only difference between like this and S1 is basically this one, if you take photos, you will have a bit of softness to it. Not too much. It won't be like, okay, I cannot print this one out compared to S1, but because it does not have anti-aliasing filter, it is bit smoother. Benefit of without having that anti-aliasing filter is that you will not have moire effects, which is a flat out video killer. Like if you make a video which has moire, people will reject it. So are there any side effects? Well, the biggest side effect, even though they are aiming for cinema industry, the first thing that many cinematographer will like, yeah, I'm not touching this camera simply because it does not have internal raw recording. Now at 4,000, at 5,000, you are getting many dedicated cinema camera which has internal raw recording, which includes Blackmagic. So you have to understand that. At that point, people are like, dude, no. And why they haven't done that? Like at first I thought it was processor, but then I realized processor has cooling element, so it cannot be processor limited. That is the problem of basically UHS2 SD card slot. They had to use XQD. They did not do that. So that is why they do not have internal raw recording. Now for many people it does not make a difference. For some people it is like they have to have raw recording. Basically they do so heavy color correction, or they do such a heavy green screening effect and all that. You can do green screening on a very cheap camera, but on a high-end camera you can really take care of the edges and all that. For those scenarios, raw become a priceless tool. So for those people, they will look at it as like, no raw, I'm out. So and you can do raw output. Thankfully it does have 10-bit output, which Sony does not do. They do have 10-bit output, and they can utilize any shotgun, inferno monitor or things of that nature, and they are working with the company itself to make a completely closed ecosystem where they can do very high bit rate. You have to understand, it cannot allow you to do 6K because HDMI is limited to 4K. So as of now, if they wanted basically 6K output, given the fact that there is no recorder for it, so it might have been a mute, they had to use display port. They used HDMI port, so that's why they are limited. They cannot do basically 6K output. They can only do 4K output. That is not the limitation of Panasonic. Or the only way the Panasonic could have bypassed this is if they have directly started using display port. So basically no internal raw recording is a turn off for many people. They won't even touch this camera. Another aspect, now this is quite frustrating, is like it is not a 4K 60 frame per second full frame camera. So if you are doing vlogging and all that, and especially in outdoor scenario, you want that 60 frame per second for smoothing the movement. And it has IBIS, it has autofocus, again not the greatest, but it has autofocus. So in those sort of scenario, you want this 4K 60 frames, which is available now in action cams. And again, I could understand that when they were saying like, S1 will heat up if they try to read that. You have a cooling fan, you have a very big system. Why the heck you are not doing that? Like, you have 6K output, but you do not have 4K 60 frame per second. So it's quite frustrating. So, but you will like, hey, I checked this picture, it has 4K 60 frame. Yes, the moment you will do that, it will do the crop to super 35 millimeter. Now, the reason why most people bypass this is like our brain has the desire or necessity to like bypass everything. So we read 35, we are like full frame 35, like it's super 35, it's very small, it's like APS-C. So many options, like many video options that you will be like, whoa, this is amazing, this is that, or this is that. Please pay attention to the spec sheet and you will find out most of them are in APS-C system. So basically you are buying a full frame camera which does not have full frame capabilities. It's like, yeah, I have full frame. If you are 6K 30 frame per second, you cannot go higher than that. And you will like, okay, I don't need 6K, I only want to enjoy 4K. You're like, okay, 4K 30, awesome, full frame. 4K 60 crops. So that is quite frustrating. It's like, at this point you can't justify that. You are saying this is a like a cinema camera, you are saying this like it's a dedicated video camera, you have cooling fans into this. So that's quite frustrating. So many people flat out will be turned on by these two factors. It's like most of the video options, fancy video options, are in a cropped mode, and the rolling shutter is also not that great. So the only way to bypass the rolling shutter on a full frame is to have a global shutter, because you can't read it. Otherwise you have to invent some technology like Sony has for A9 series, where they have like 3 parallel readouts. So other than that, like flat out, many people will be like, yeah, I do a lot of color correction without raw, I'm not touching this. Other people will be like, hey, 4K 60 frame per second in full frame, that's the whole point of it, it's not there, I'm out. Other people will be like, hey, wait a minute, I thought this anamorphic does full frame readout, does not do that. You have to understand, like, please spend time on the video spec sheet. You will be surprised like how many things are in the crop mode. So the final question, like, should you buy it or not? Well, for many people, let's say the first comparison you will think of is Blackmagic 6K. For many people, Panasonic system is a much more complete system. Right now, if you buy this basically Blackmagic 6K, you will not be satisfied with this because it is very incomplete. The biggest hurdle with this camera is the battery life. It is remarkably poor. It's like, are you serious? Like, you're making a video camera that does not have like battery life even for 1 hour reliably. Like, people are saying, hey, I get 1 hour 30 minutes. Another person is saying, hey, mine died in 40 minutes. And again, they are not making the battery themselves, they are utilizing someone else's battery. That is the reason they do not have the absolute control needed for a good reliable battery reading. Panasonic does not suffer from that. For many people, that alone is like, hey dude, I want my camera to turn on, and it's like, if it says the battery is there for 2 hours, it should work for 2 hours. So flat out, many people will reject this. Again, not everybody needs raw. Like, YouTubers don't need raw unless they are like doing some extra fancy color work and all that. So for many people, that alone is like, dude, good battery life, I'm done. For other people, it's like, it has great IBIS. Like, flat out, there is no competition about Panasonic IBIS. So many people are like, yeah dude, I'm sold. And it's a much more complete option. So you may understand this is a video camera, but if you are trying to use this in full sunlight outdoors, you will realize the value of electronic viewfinder. It does not have it. So either you have to buy an external electronic viewfinder, or you have to buy external monitor which is bright enough, 1000 nit monitors. Now this monitor is quite bright, not bright enough, but in in Panasonic, you don't have to worry about it. If like the monitor is not bright enough, you can directly put your eye to it and enjoy. So in those sort of scenario, Panasonic appears as a much more complete ecosystem. It's like I take this camera out, I'm done. Only thing I have to do is attach audio system, which you have to do here. But here many people like who are serious with this, the first thing they're like, okay, add extra battery system, add basically image stabilization. It does not have any internal system, so you have to put a very serious image stabilization, because many prime lenses don't have image stabilization, and because they are not as licensed by Canon, they cannot get the Canon lens image stabilization to work as effectively as Canon would get there. Again, it's a locked out proprietary system, so Panasonic does not suffer from that. So Panasonic get best image stabilization, electronic viewfinder, reliable battery life. For many people, flat out for those things alone, they're like, yeah, I'm not touching this, that is happy for me. Now, the biggest hurdle at this point in time, the one limiting factor of Panasonic is the lame autofocus. They do not have an autofocus where you can be like, record, I'm done. Like, you do not have push the button and forget about it. You do not have the reliability of dual pixel autofocus. You do not have the precision of face detect autofocus. Face detect autofocus. So that is the only limiting factor. If they have figured this out, if they figure it out like by future updates and all that, again, physics does not support that. By definition, contrast dip will be always slower than all those other options. So let's say they figure out, somehow magically they figure out due artificial intelligence and all that jazz. If the autofocus becomes reliable, this is a very capable camera. Flat out, it will kill this. Like, even though that camera is like 45% more expensive, people will not touch this, because this has a third-party lens mount, because again, Canon lens mount, and it's a full-frame Canon lens mount on an APS-C sensor. Why? So Blackmagic 4K was amazing. Blackmagic 6K is not as amazing as 4K, because the cost has gone up, the lens mounting options have gone down. Like, you cannot put any lens mount you could with a 4K option. So lens mounting going down, other things like that. So there are reasons for you to choose Panasonic, but you have to understand, does it match your need? Because many people will buy this camera, Canon C200, for internal recording and inbuilt ND. For those reasons alone, people might be like, hey, I'm gonna go with Canon. So that's up to you. Please understand your needs before you choose your camera. What do you need and why do you need it? Like, I'm telling you, if you want just, I take it out the camera and I just want to shoot, this is not a good suit for you. Like, Panasonic would be a better suit. For if you like, hey, I want to take it out and I don't want to worry about like buying $10,000 ND filters, this is good for you. So you have to understand, please understand your need. There is no perfect camera. You have to understand your needs. Does it align with this camera? Buy it. If it does not align, don't buy it. So this was my presentation on Panasonic S1H. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I would urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.